So what does a biodiversity-friendly suburb look like? This is the most important thing we need to do. We need to, as I said before, we need to build biological corridors that connect those isolated habitat fragments. Because if we connect them, they're no longer isolated. If they're no longer isolated, the populations within them are no longer tiny. And when they fluctuate, they will no longer blink out. This is the single most important thing we can do to end this extinction crisis. We need to build those corridors out of the plants that are going to support the food webs that we're trying to restore. And I suggest we put those corridors in the areas that are now in lawn, or at least part of the area that's now in lawn. Because lawn is not a very productive thing to do with the landscape. It's the second least productive thing we can do. The first least productive is paving over the land. So how are we going to do this? Let's flip-flop the landscaping paradigm we've followed forever. We've built our house, and then we've carved out a few areas for flower beds, planted a tree here, there, and there, and now that we're tired of landscaping, everything else by default becomes lawn. Let's turn that on its head. We'll build the house, then we're going to carve out the area where we want lawn. Where do we want lawn? We want lawn where we're going to walk. Lawn is the perfect plant for walking on without killing it. Where do we want to walk? We want to walk in flat areas. We certainly don't want lawn on slopes because it's too difficult to mow. But if we want to throw the Frisbee back here, we can have lawn. If we want to get married up here, we can have lawn. If we want to walk to the backyard, you need a nice grass path. Wherever you want lawn where you're going to walk in your property, mark it out, and then everything else by default becomes heavily planted. What are you going to plant it with? You're going to plant it with the plants, at least the structural plants that are part of the biome in which you live. So this is designed for the eastern deciduous biome where I live. You guys are in a transition zone. A lot of it was oak savanna. So you're not going to have as many structural plants as we would back east, but you still can get a lot of structural plants into your landscape. Then you can decorate them with the more ornamental plants in ways that brighten your day. But you have gotten a lot of plants back into your landscape. How do you do that without it looking messy, like we all think native plants have to be? That's a design challenge for our landscaper designers these days, and there are ways to do it. I've seen it done a number of times. If we do that in half the area that is now in lawn, let's say we've got 40 million acres in lawn. We have more than that, but we'll keep the math simple. If we do it in half the area that we have in lawn, we can create a new national park that will be 20 million acres in size. We can call it Homegrown National Park, and it'll be bigger than the Adirondacks, plus Yellowstone, plus Yosemite, Grand Tetons, Canyonlands, Mount Rainier, North Cascades, the Badlands, Olympic National Park, Sequoia National Park, the Grand Canyon, plus Denali, which is huge, plus the Great Smoky Mountains. You add up all those parks, it's still less than 20 million acres. So Homegrown National Park is going to be huge. Let's take areas that look like this, turn them into that. This into that. This into that, into that, into that. We call this the Lepidoptera Trail at the University of Delaware. It's about the size of a typical backyard. All native plants. Little grass paths that wind throughout there. The public comes and sees all the life that's happening back there. We call it the Lepidoptera Trail instead of the Butterfly Garden because it supports all the Lepidoptera, not just butterflies, even those ugly little moths that are great food for everything. The reason I show you this picture is that because 1 year before I took it, it was lawn. It doesn't take you half a lifetime to create spaces like this. Or you can actually build a woodland path in your backyard. That could be the edge of your property, and you know that you're no longer mowing grass. You've got appropriate woodland plants here, and your neighbor's not going to be upset because he can't see you anymore. But look, this curves around. It looks like you own the rest of the world. It looks like you're Ted Turner. If you can convince your neighbor to do the same thing, though, then you've got the connectivity that is going to save life on Earth. It connects with the woodlot down here and the woodlot down here. We still have our lawn. We can still play with our lawnmowers. It'll be all right. Here's a perfect example. Here's a brand new neighborhood carved out of the woods in North Carolina that I was flying over. And it's obviously a pretty young neighborhood. But there's so many places that I've followed. You can come back 20 years later and it looks exactly the same because they think that's the way you're supposed to landscape. But if they were to landscape the way I'm suggesting, it would now become a biological corridor that not just allows movement between these more natural areas, but things can actually reproduce and survive in there. It's not going to be no man's land anymore. Now here's a homeowner that put the house into a forest without cutting the trees down, and that's great. This is a tulip tree monoculture, by the way. As I said, very common back where I come from. So one thing they could do is diversify that a little bit. But what they have done is to do what we do everywhere. As soon as we plant a tree, we mow under it. And if you mow this once a week, you've killed everything from the ground all the way up to the canopy. Why do they do this? They do it because we insist on it. We have to have short grass. Why do we insist on short grass? I don't know. But evolutionary psychologists have some hypotheses about why we like short grass. And one of them is that we spend a lot of time in Africa. And every time we went into tall grass or bushy scrub, we didn't come out. So only people that like short grass were the ones that left Africa and spread their genes. But even after we were out of Africa, we didn't have to worry about the lion. We still had to worry about our neighbor. We feel safer when we can see to the horizon. I understand that, but that's not a very healthy way to treat the planet. So not in our biological carters. We need canopy, we need subcanopy, we need understory trees, we need shrub layer, and we need healthy forest floor. Because there are important groups of biodiversity that require those different strata in our biological carter. So we'll put the tallest trees in the middle, heavily underplanted with understory trees, heavily underplanted with shrubs, and then we could be creative with our annual and perennial gardening in the sun on the edge. If we see a whole lot of mulch down here, we don't have enough plants. We're not making mulch gardens. We can favor particular types of trees or plants that are good at bringing the type of biodiversity into our life that we like. And this is one I discovered. It's alternate leaf dogwood, Cornus alternifolia. Very good it's got this beautiful bloom in the spring, very good at making insects while the birds are reproducing, but it also turns into a really heavy berry set midway through the summer. I put this particular tree next to my bathroom window. It has grown up past my bathroom window, and now when I look out the window, I see all the birds that are coming to this particular tree. So I've started to keep a photographic record of the birds using this tree, just for fun. And this is what I have so far. This is the Baltimore oriole female, the orchard oriole female, cedar waxwing, catbird, bluebird mommy, bluebird baby. Brown thrasher is thinking about it. He's got one, but he dropped it. But he got another one. A mockingbird, also thinking about it, but found an insect. Is always going to take the insect over a berry and then take the berry. Grackle was a new one this summer. Warbling vireo, peewee, red-eyed vireo, robin mommy, robin baby, kingbird, and the ruby-crowned kinglet that is not there to get the berries. It doesn't like berries, but it's there to get the insects that are still on these